Hey folks, Steve here with a Case Yellow 1940 video for you. I have to apologize. This video is not going to be exactly what I intended, and I'm really sorry. Because what I had done is I had played. Now we are at the end of turn 3 in the replay right now, okay? And I I recorded a post turn 1 video, uh, and then I was going to play through, and in the mix of misspeaking, I went to delete a file and I deleted the wrong video file and I lost a bunch of stuff. And Android has a little bit different of a file saving system where it's kind of hard to undo video deletion. And I could have, I don't know what to tell you guys. I'm really frustrated. So I'm going to have to tell you for this, what I intended to do was to describe how things went from turn 1 and turn 2 and turn 3 and turn 4, and then be able to get into turn 5 with more detail. And I can't do that now because what I had recorded is gone. And so what I'm going to have to explain to you is where things are at now, which is into turn 3, and the Germans are doing quite well. So let me try to talk through what happened on turn 1 in brief. And by the way, you can see the Germans are doing very well. We have Germans along the coast all the way through here by the end of turn 3. Very good, very well. We've had some really good rolls. We've had some really good stupid dive bombing that worked out pretty well, synergized well. We're sitting in a really good position, much better than we were at turn 3 of the last playthrough. But here's where things are at. On turn 1, I had kind of figured out what is the optimal way to try to take the Netherlands. And I think I'm at the point now where anytime I play this game in the future, I'm going to have myself set up to be able to take the Netherlands on turn 1 every time, assuming the dice don't screw me over, right? Now it's a good way to look at it. I think I learned a lot from, and boy, this is a replacement for the description that I gave on camera that I lost. So I'm really sorry about this. The places where I dropped my paratroopers, it was really important to land right here with a paratrooper and the gliders so that the gliders have a chance to attack Rotterdam and succeed, which they did. So when you do the count, you need the 6 Netherlands cities. You're going to get Maastricht almost right away. You're going to walk into it. You can pretty easily get Nijmegen, and with a couple of move combats and stuff, you can get into Eindhoven. If you captured Breda with a different paratrooper, and you have, I think it's this motorized infantry that starts like way over here, have them move in, capture these towns. That's 3 towns, which is a city. So you get, 1, 2, 3, 4. Rotterdam is 5 if you can make it work, and then you terror bomb Utrecht or Den Haag, and that's the 6 that you need. And I managed to achieve that. I was pretty stoked, and this explanation is almost as good as the original one that I recorded. But I feel pretty good. What you need to make sure happens is, and I got really lucky. All my paratroopers survived. I didn't have a single paratrooper loss. So they got where they needed. I had guys over here kind of disrupting the Dutch forces' ability to move and try to stop me, and it all came together very well. I was very glad. So the Germans got 5 victory points on turn 1 just for that. That was pretty solid. We did end up giving the Allies 5 victory points total because they got 2 for the terror bombing, and then they got 3 for the line of communication from the ports down around, which they're going to get on turn 1 no matter what. So at the end of turn 1, it was 5-5, which, all things considered, I think that's pretty darn good. I had also really tried to make sure that I focused on a good move into Belgium, and I had units along through here that were able to eliminate several Belgian units because they had nowhere to retreat to. And that helped basically break down the the Belgians. I forgot to take a Belgian unit off because here on turn 3 the Belgians have surrendered. Um, anyway, back to turn 1. So we were making progress into here. And then in the Ardennes, what I ended up doing was 2 moves and then 2 combats, where we were basically right at the Meuse down in here, and things were going relatively well there. So then from there, going into turn 2, we had a pretty, I think, standard operation. So I was able to immediately get units out of the Netherlands, right? I just had to keep a few of these guys behind the weaker core to be garrisons, and I could continue moving south. So we were able to get adjacent towards Antwerp. We were able to push up close to the Dial line. And then through the Meuse, we burst out across, and we got to this hex at the end of turn 2 with the German Panzer Spearhead, the furthest that we could get. And generally speaking, I felt pretty good about the end of turn 2. It was pretty solid. Really punished the Allies. I was feeling good. And then with turn 3, we had actually, by the end of turn 2, we had basically turned over this flank, and we were going to be pushing through here, basically. Like we had opened up this coastline, and there was not enough defending here because we attacked, we moved stuff around. I had managed to get an a crawl, however you want to look at it, crawl our way through here and start making an advance across the coast, which is super critical to what we were doing here. So with that, it meant that on turn 3, I did my move, and this was as far as I could get. So they rushed across, we moved over, we did some combats with movement, we cleared, these important Belgian towns. We got to Ostend. We just didn't want to attack across the river. And what was really important was that with the French moves that were available, like we had originally wanted to evacuate guys on that. And we did give the Germans 3 victory points by declaring Operation Dynamo early. And I wanted to get more French out of the port, but because the Germans were so close, very dire situation, we basically, I guess they weren't here yet, but it was looking not good, right? So they decided to give the Germans the victory points to get Operation Dynamo going. We exited a couple of British units off the map, and I would have taken these French units off right there and there because they were right next to the port. I had planned ahead. I was actually, when it was like, okay, the Germans are playing much better. As the French, I was playing much better. I was like, okay, or the Allies, I should say. I know I'm going to declare Operation Dynamo soon. I'm going to keep a couple units back so that first action round, we get guys out. Just immediately, we're going to get as many victory points as we can. The problem was, we had so few guys around that I had to put something in front of these guys. So I had to take one of the corps and move them over here. And, the mad dash with the 2 movements to try to get back was, this was as best as they could really do. So they were shifting all the way back with 2 moves. And the problem is we just can't get up around these Germans because you can't move from Zoc to Zoc. So everything has to be like peeling up and away. And all these refugee markers that the Germans have much more intelligently placed this time around indeed are slowing everybody down. They're just running into traffic jams. They can't get to where they need to be. We're holding something of a defensive line here to hold the door open, but this penetration is huge. This could be the game winner right here. It's just the fact that we were able to push through here is a big deal. Now, the German moves elsewhere. You can see we're trying to pull up. These guys are having to stop and encircle these British because they need to do something here. And I couldn't really attack them. I had to keep up the movement pressure, but these guys got stuck, Zoc locked behind. But everybody else, I'm trying to rush guys forward. Nothing really going on the Maginot line. I'm trying to find a spot where I can try to attack, but it's still tough. The French are starting to peel units off where they can, to get stuff in Paris and try to screen Paris. There is a set of mobile artillery that the Germans have sent. They're kind of weak, sending on a dash through here, just keeping the lanes open so that we can come back south when the time is right. But the other armored corps, sets of divisions have, kind of spread out to cut this line so the Allies don't get victory points. Now it's going to be kind of weird to figure out like how do we shut this down? Can we get into the port and take it and keep them from getting out and then chew them all up when they're out of supply? How can we eliminate this and deprive them of the most victory points? And I'm still not totally sure how exactly I want to do that, because at some point I'm going to have to do the Panzer refit, and a lot of these units are going to go away, and there's only so many infantry, honestly. So I kind of have to resolve this and then keep this lane open enough that I can then just start coming south again when the time is right. But I don't want to leave it too open, I guess, because what I want to try to avoid is making it more difficult to turn south when I can turn south. So I know this was not as good of a description as if I had shown you turn one and turn two right away. Again, I'm really sorry for that. It's been kind of a long day, and I haven't been able to do as much as I would have wanted. And just I needed to sleep more, and I didn't sleep enough last night, so I'm just doing what I can. So anyway, the Germans are doing good. I mean, I think they're doing well. And where the victory points stand right now is that the Allies, after getting 2 turns of the line of communication victory points, so that's 6, and then they got 2 for 2 for the terror bombing, and then 2 for the evacuation. So far, the Allies have 10 victory points. The Germans actually have more right now, which is the key thing. It was, at the end of turn 2, I forget the exact numbers, the Allies were maybe a little ahead. But now that the Germans have cut off this line of communication, that is very specifically less victory points. So they're not getting 3. They only got the extra 2 from evacuation. The Germans have been able to get a couple more. So they picked up 1 for grabbing Abbeville, however that's pronounced. I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it. We got 3 victory points for the surrender of Belgium. So we took Belgium because we took Antwerp, we took Brussels, we took Ghent, and we took Ostend, which is enough to cause them to surrender. They were pretty close to surrendering on just loss of units. They only had a few units left because we had managed to really rip them up as the Germans advanced. So it is generally going good there. So those 3 victory points were nice. I would have liked to have gotten more, but the die roll came up lower. I rolled a 2, so we only got 3 victory points for that. But the pickups that we are getting are good. I mean, generally we're making pretty reasonable progress, and we got the 3 victory points for the early Operation Dynamo. Now the Germans still need double by the end of the game. So what's really going to matter over the course of this game session is going to be, how many victory points can the Allies get out of the port? If we can keep that down to only so many, right? If we actually do something crazy like we cut up through here, and we encircle these guys right here, and they can't get out, and they just die off due to attrition, that's almost game by itself, right? It's really going to come down to how many units do the Allies get out of the port, and then how many victory points will the Germans need to hit their own threshold for victory. So we're inching in on that end of the first phase of the game like we were in the previous playthrough. Just the difference is we're actually playing it correctly this time, and the Germans are doing quite well. I've managed to get very fortunate with some die rolls. The move around Antwerp is really important. So all of that, I think, is a big deal. I probably should have tried harder to put more allied units up here besides those in the dial plane. So that was probably my strategic error. I just didn't, because we didn't do it the first time around, I didn't realize how nice it was going to be for the allies to get across and get across so quickly, where they're just running and gunning for it. So yeah, you can just kind of see, right? It's going to be like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We could close it even just that easy, but the allies are going to get the first move action on turn 4. So, um, you know, it'd be really nice if the Germans could go first, but they're not going to. The allies will, and they're going to get some guys out. You're going to see a pullback somehow, and they'll have a better chance of uh, getting out as they can. Okay, so I'm going to put a stop here, and what I'm going to do, I'm going to go play turn 4 in the mode that I was intending, which is you get a report out per turn. I'm going to go do turn 4, and then when we come back, it'll be the aftermath of turn 4, and we will be prepared to pick up the regular cadence with deeper level of detail in the next video. So let's see end of turn 4. Okay, we are midway through turn 4, and I want to show a very critical situation here that has developed. So we now have Dunkirk has been captured by the Germans. We had a allied move, which they were starting to get some guys out. Here they got 2 out. I had successfully disrupted the port, so they could only do 4 per action round, but they got 2 out, and then they were in pretty good shape to pull out a lot more, but the chit came out German. The German chit was then used to attack around, and they got into here. And then the second German chit was pulled, which I used for movement again, and was further able to push through. Now, some of the challenge was not all the German units now had sufficient tactical ratings to slide all the way through, but enough managed to make it so that like these guys are kind of trapped. The rest of these guys are stuck. They might be able to try to burst through somewhere, but they're very much locked into place. They're surrounded on all sides, basically. And so I don't think that there's much that the Allies are going to be able to do to stop this, because what's going to end up happening is the Germans now can attack their way through here, right? They can basically force their way, collapsing this, and the Allies are going to basically lose their opportunity for victory points. Now, these guys are still going to need to be attrited away, but we don't have a huge time on that. Oops, I forgot to move these guys. 1, 2, 3. So that's my bad. I forgot to move these guys entirely. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. 2 moves. There you go. Now there's this big wide open gap that the French could try to maneuver into, but even if they try to come up through here, they're not going to make it in time. I mean, they could move and maybe try to make something happen here, but they don't have enough strength. Any attack they do will very likely be wasted. Technically, we did take control of this port here, and so it's really now all about, if the Allies can't get any more victory points and they are stuck with 10, the Germans only need to get 20 to win the game. And I strongly suspect that they'll be able to do that. So this could be a game ender right here, which really sucks, because I will have played most of this game without much to show for it, I guess, for you guys. But we'll see. So I'm going to play through the rest of this turn with the stuff on camera. So the next chit has to be an Allied chit, and we do get the Allied combat chit. So is there anywhere that the Allies can do combat that will be meaningful? Over here, that's not going to do any good. All on the Maginot line, it's not going to do any good. So it's really all about here. Can't really attack these guys. This would be suicide and probably would not work very well. I think this would be probably the best thing would be to attack from here to here. So they would have 4, 4 to 4. So 1 to 1, but it would be reduced to 1 to 2. But if we don't take back hexes, we've got a big problem. So we're going to try to on the 1 to 2. We roll a 4. So it's, do we have higher combat? We have 4s. He's got a 4, so no. So this is a no result. Can't really do much here. This would be 1 to 1. This would be like 1 to 3. That wouldn't be good. That wouldn't be good. Yeah, unfortunately for the allied combat, there's nothing that they can really do. I probably should have also negated. This should have been actually worse than that because they are out of attack supply, which means that should have been an AL1. So I don't know how you want to look at that, but this might be game, set, and match, fellas. I don't know. There's no other combats that make sense for the allies right now. We'll go to the chip cup and see what we get. We get a movement. So we can't move from Zoc to Zoc. What can this guy do? He can do 1, 2, 3, 4. And that would probably just get him killed, so probably don't want to do that. What we probably need to do is start creating some defensive perimeter of some sort. And we try to protect the river crossings wherever we can. And it's like this is what the allies can do. They can try to start setting up a line. They can be thinking about where can we safely pull off a unit. And even then, there's not many safe places to come off the map, really at all. So let's see what can happen next, right? Well, the last chip that's going to come out is the German combat chip. So what German combats should we have occur, right? It's almost like they don't even really need to do that many, because they're basically, they can just sit on all of this and be fine. Is there any reason to do a combat, right? We could do be what, 2 to 1, make that 3 to 1. The last Stuka that we have, and that's a DE result. So these guys are toast. We could advance after combat, so I guess we would. And are there any other, let's see, we could do one here. 8. That's 6 to 1 just for straight up. 1 result. So this guy's toast. So probably want to advance these guys after combat. try to attack here, but that's kind of a weak attack. Right here would be okay, and our TR is better, so he has to retreat. And that would be overstacking, so end up using this guy to overstacking, and we can have him retreat here, I think. Yeah, I mean, you guys can see, right? Like, this is just, you know, there's not much that the Allies can do. So I think that will be it, and then it's a question of the end of this turn, right? So we can kind of walk through the end of this turn. Disruption removal. Well, the only disruptions we really have on the board are for the port. We shift those away for the moment. Are there any bridge crossing shenanigans? Not that we care about right now. Not that we would really care about at all. Belgium. Now this is something I need to go look at. Do we have enough forces to garrison Belgium? It's actually something I didn't really think about. Let's keep 5 divisions. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're fine there. We're gonna have to remember to keep some guys back. Boy, these guys are big problems. Okay. Refugee marker placement. Well, I mean, for what it matters, there's not that many more places to bother with. So just, you know, we throw out a couple here. There's not that many places to really go at this point. That'd be a problem. Okay. Paris Open City. Well, there's no point in doing that yet. Victory Determination Segment. Okay, so the Allies got these 2 guys off the continent, and the French got off the boat. So that's 2 victory points for the Allies. So they're now at 12. See if any other victory points matter here. Definitely can't get the 3 for the line of communication. Yeah, Allies aren't going to get anything more. The Germans, let's see, we had, well, I guess I can't put refugees in Abbeville if I took it, right? So, like, this has to go somewhere else. Okay. Okay, so, we captured the Dynamo evacuation port. That's 2 victory points to the Germans. So they have 14 to 12. We haven't captured any of the other cities that give you extra victory points, and the rest of the stuff right now doesn't matter. So here's where things are at, guys. We are on the end of turn 4. The Germans have 14 victory points. The Allies have 12. It doesn't look like the Allies are going to be able to get... I mean, we didn't totally encircle the Allied army. Dunkirk is a failure. Mostly, I'm going to say it's going to be mostly due to this coast hugging run that we did. That was just super powerful. Just the fact that we managed to get through here enough that we could start sailing down. Critical error on my part with the Allies. But again, the Zocs not mattering for some of these German units was really key. They just started coasting, running, jumping. They could go. We were past the major. Once we got past the major hex sides, major river hex sides, they could just rock and roll from there. Yikes. Okay. So we do have armor attrition, so we need to take a look at that. So we'll pull 3 DLM. 3 DLM. Okay, so he's out there, and he takes a step loss. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the wrong unit. This guy. 3rd DLM doesn't help their situation. And then the second is the 1st DLM, which is right here, so he's toast. Not looking good for the Allies at all. Very bad, actually. Very bad indeed. Okay, Germans. This could actually be quite bad for them. 10th Panzer. To see where the 10th Panzer is at. I think that is one that has not taken a loss yet. I'm pretty certain. Yeah, this poor guy back here, so that's not ideal. And then 4th Panzer, which I want to say hasn't taken a step loss yet, but 4th. Oh, here, oof. No, that's not so great for him. Okay, so definitely some attriting going on. That could leave it open for the Allies to do something. Replacement segment doesn't matter yet. Better defense doesn't matter yet. And Panzer refit right now, I don't think we want to do yet. I think we want to finish tightening the noose for this. So that brings us to the beginning of turn 5. So let me zoom out a little bit and again show where things are at. So the game is going swimmingly for the Germans in this one. Where I think the first game, I mean, even if knowing that I was doing stuff wrong in the first game, I think the Allies had a pretty good chance of winning because they were consistently going to be able to get units out of the port. They were going to rack up a lot of victory points. The Germans had simply not gained enough victory points for it to really matter. So that was kind of a failure from that perspective. And then, basically this time around, the fall of Netherlands on turn 1, key. The early bruising of the Belgians was key. Getting through Antwerp as early as we did and to get that coast hugging that we managed to get, I think that was very, very key. The placement of the refugee markers was a lot better on my part as the Germans. It really, it was understanding how to use them better and to really just figure out, like, where do I want to slow you down? Tended to work out a lot better this time. And I think generally everywhere else, we just had a good string of actions here. So, the Allied rail is kind of there. They can get stuff in kind of better shape. But at this point, the Allied pocket, there's no way these guys are going to get out. Now, what's going to be interesting is how do we eliminate all of this, right? Like, all of these guys are going to get out of supply markers. These guys are going to attrit a step, so they'll be weakened. So this turn 5, we would likely see elimination of this guy, a lot of losses on this pocket, if not total destruction. They won't lose a step this supply check at the beginning of turn 5, but they're basically going to be pretty worn down from it. And then once they're all gone, we'll, as we go through this turn, we'll probably be declaring that Panzer refit on either turn 5 or 6. The only trick will be, will they actually come in soon enough for us to make use of them in the late part of the game to, actually burst through and finish the game up. I think it's going to be a really interesting puzzle to figure out where do we go from here. Because even if this is really good, right, this is good, we still have to finish them off and do Panzer refit and push beyond the French line. And they are trying to put something together. something together. Whether or not that will be enough, who knows? The Germans really have not lost any units. They've lost armor steps. Every combat that they've been engaged in, they've either won outright or it was the type of result where you could take a step loss, but your opponent had to take a step loss and retreat, and that kind of thing. So there's a couple of steps that we can use German replacements on, but by and large, we've not lost anything critical. So I think long term, that's a really strong thing for the Germans to be relying on. This whole Maginot thing, I mean, I'm trying to get set up over here to like target like this hex, and then we can start rolling up the Maginot line, maybe pick up some victory points there. I'm not really sure. The big long scheme strategy, right? Like if I look at where the Allies get victory points, the Allies can still get 5 victory points for holding Paris. If they manage to eliminate any German panzer divisions, they could get some victory points. But that seems to be the only way they're going to get any more victory points. So at most, we could see, if things go really well for the Allies, and I don't think that they will, we could see them get up to maybe 17 victory points. 17, maybe 20 maximum. Now the Germans have 14, so at the very least, they were going to have to try to get 40. They can still pick up 8 from getting Paris if it's declared an open city, so we do need to make sure we do that. Once they cut off the Maginot, that'll be worth some victory points, and then they're going to have to they're going to get the majority of their victory points after this, getting these yellow print movement units off the map. And I'm just not super sure what that will look like in real terms. How many will that really be? Because if it's the yellow print, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. They can maybe get like 20 some points or 18 to 20 points from that. And that would be, I don't know if that'd be enough to even get to 40, to be honest. So I don't know. I think while it looks like the Germans are going to run away with a crazy victory here, we have to do the real calculus as the game goes on, basically. So I don't want to say that we're all the way there yet and that it's a German victory, though this certainly makes it feel that way. There's still more to do. I think that'll be the key thing. And if the Allies can't get a strong enough of a line going here, we could just see the Germans just push their way through those as well, and eventually get to the point where, they crack the line, all this goes to shit, and then they're just running off the map. And if they can do any of that to any degree, then they're going to be in good shape. I just don't know the mechanics of all of this, right? Because if all these guys got away, well, then this whole situation goes away quicker, and they can at least start heading down. But here we do have to force these guys to surrender. So it'll be a combination of them being out of supply and then being attacked, having nowhere to retreat to, overstacking, getting eliminated. If we can reduce the encirclement in turn 5, and then work on Panzer refit from there, I think we'll be in reasonably good shape for the rest of the campaign. So this could be a German victory. If I screw up somehow, maybe the Allies will still win, but it's really hard to see when the Allies have 12 victory points. And if I guess I'll put it this way, looking at it another way. Sorry, I'm rambling, guys, but I'm trying to make up for the fact that I screwed up my footage. If the Allies don't get any more victory points and they're stuck at 12 for the rest of the game, then the Germans only need 24 to win, and they're already at 14. So in theory, all we need is 10 more victory points. We still have to get them. We have to figure out how we're going to get those 10 victory points. But that could be the way that this game goes. So, it was tough going into the game, and as I was playing the first playthrough, there was this feeling of like, okay, is there even a point, can the Germans even win, right? And I think to win, you definitely have to knock out Netherlands on turn one, do well against Belgium, get across the Meuse on turn two, which all that is feasible, and then it's going to be how well does Operation Dynamo go. If the Allies just do too good at Dynamo, you might even likely be able to call the game early much of the time. And the fact that I have basically stopped Operation Dynamo, they only got a handful of victory points before I shut the port down, is a real question around, like, is the game still in balance, right? Can I still act, can I win? Is this the only way that Germany can win, is if you do something like this? Seems like that's probably the case. You have to shut Dunkirk down. You have to shut the evacuation port down, even if it's not Dunkirk. If you can't do that, then it's very likely the Germans will lose. If you can do it, then it's going to be how you play the rest of the campaign to see if the Germans can win. So, I don't know, guys. Hopefully this is interesting to you. Obviously a very different game state than what we left. Fortunately, I can say I have played correctly much better this time. Maybe I made mistakes that I can't see at the moment. There's a few areas where I didn't mark these fortified lines as destroyed, but I feel like at this point I don't need to. And I typically am not marking units as out of attack supply, because I know that they're out of attack supply when they're attacking, and I don't really feel the need to mark that, because most of these units that are out of attack supply are going to stay out of attack supply for some time. I will say that somewhere through here is the I think these guys might have been accidentally overstacked. There is a German attack HQ here, so there is some benefit right now to the Germans attacking and whittling away this force. All right. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I hope this was a good video for you, even with the fumble on the footage. This was turns 1 through 4 of the replay, and we will look at turn 5 in the next video. So thank you for watching. Really appreciate it. Take care. Keep gaming.